Before I let you all go from Swell 2025, I just want to wrap things up with a few closing words and somewhat personal words about, the journey, if you will.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Black Swan Capitalist. Today we have a very detailed deep dive on XRP and the mathematics behind it. For starters, most people look at XRP and they see a cryptocurrency. That's all they understand. That's all they see. They think it's a token to trade, to buy low, sell high, maybe even speculate on it. That's what the ETFs are for. But that's the massive misunderstanding behind it. I've always said XRP was engineered to be a global liquidity bridge, a tool for moving trillions and trillions of dollars across borders, across currencies, and even across markets and economies. Its price isn't going to be set by the retail market. It's simply going to be determined by mathematics, by its fractionalization, meaning its divisibility, and of course the macroeconomics behind supply and demand. Today, in this video, I'm going to try my best to break down how this is achieved step by step and how XRP could reach $10,000, how could it reach $50,000 or even higher, and why this is not fantasy or a guess. It's actually a logical outcome of its design. Let's start with fractionalization. This is one of XRP's most important core innovations and features, you could say, because if each XRP can be split into 1 million units called drops, that means if XRP hits $10,000 per token, one drop would technically be just 1 cent. Think about the implications. Example, someone can pay you a cup of coffee with a fraction of a drop. Let's talk about mega payments, and this is institutional transfers, like a $1 billion cross-border settlement. It wouldn't require you moving billions of tokens of XRP, only tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands depending on the price. Whether it be stocks, gold, or even Bitcoin, I'm telling you, they lose practicality as their price rises because you can't transact in very tiny fractions as efficiently as you can with XRP compared to Bitcoin. It's the XRP ledger that is designed to scale with that value and not just the volume. Another thing we need to consider is liquidity efficiency. When you start to talk about liquidity, that is the lifeblood of any settlement network. It doesn't matter what technology you're talking about. Now, liquidity in XRP isn't just about how many tokens exist on the network. It's about how much value can each of those tokens move efficiently. Let's take a simple example. A $1 billion cross-border payment at $1 per XRP requires 1 billion XRP. Now, at $10,000 per XRP, that same payment only requires 100,000 XRP. So what does this really mean? The implications for this are so important because it means lower slippage. You're going to have lower slippage if you can move fewer tokens, reducing the price impact. You're going to have lower volatility because you have less supply moving through the network, which stabilizes the system. Number 3 would be faster settlements. If you need fewer units, then faster finality is going to happen. In other words, a higher XRP price increases the liquidity efficiency rather than reducing its utility. That means the more expensive XRP becomes, the easier it is for institutions and individuals to move massive amounts of wealth or value without destabilizing the network. And that ties us into global supply versus the demand. This is where scarcity meets the necessity. If you look at the global liquidity demand, there are 100 billion in XRP total. You can't produce any more. Now, let's consider the scale of global finance. And this is just some. I don't have time to go into too much detail here. But the FX market alone is $7 trillion per day. The derivative markets are over 700 trillion. And cross-border payments is 150 trillion per year or more. So even if XRP only bridges 1% of these transactions, that means To be recognized as a global reserve asset for settlement, it would still need to represent all those trillions and trillions of dollars in value at any given time. Here's the math behind this. If 1% of 150 trillion equals to 1.5 trillion in transactions annually, that means if only 25 billion of XRP are effectively circulating for these settlements, each XRP would represent $60,000 in bridged value. This is why XRP's high price is not speculative, it's mathematically necessary to fulfill its intended role and support the system it was designed to. Another important aspect of XRP is the fractionalization in institutional settlements. Banks and central banks transact in drops, not whole XRP tokens. This fractionalization means that the system can handle micropayments and macro settlements simultaneously. So if you think of this like tokenized gold, you have to look at it like this. If a single ounce can be backed by thousands and thousands of dollars in derivative claims, that's how the gold market works, XRP works the same way, just digitally. One token can represent millions in global settlements, while still allowing everyday payments at the smallest fractions, and that's why this is important. This is what drives its utility-driven valuation. The most critical piece of the puzzle is XRP's value that comes from its utility, not from the headlines behind it. Its price isn't set by hype or cycles or retail traders. Again, it's going to be determined by its velocity. How fast and efficiently will value move through this network? The other thing is adoption by institutions. We can check that mark off the box. We have central banks, we have payment providers, and we have tokenized economies and markets that are still emerging. And this ties us into the macro demand. And when you look at the total global liquidity requirements XRP can bridge, that means when XRP reaches this stage, and we're almost there, the Clarity Act will finalize and greenlight the rest of the process. It stops being a token. It gets probably knocked out of the retail market, and it becomes a monetary instrument, and that reflects the size of the economy it has to support, not the whims of retail traders. And I don't listen to retail traders because they think in such a narrow-minded view. So here's the takeaway. XRP's fractional divisibility will ensure its usability at any price. Its finite supply will guarantee its scarcity, and its role as a global liquidity bridge will ensure that the price and the high adoption naturally will drive the price up even higher. So the XRP price is infinite if you really think about it, but I think that will be clear over time for people to understand what I'm talking about there. So XRP hitting 10,000 or 50,000 or beyond is not fantasy. It's all mathematical outcomes of its design. That's not me. That's the system that they created. So you have a problem with that architecture, go complain to David Schwartz, go complain to the creators behind the Ripple network and the XRP itself.
Before I let you all go from Swell 2025, I just want to wrap things up with a few closing words and somewhat personal words about, the journey, if you will. So as I mentioned this morning, this is our 9th Swell. Some of you remember, there are a few people that were here for part of this, but the concept of Swell popped up in 2017, and it was the reaction to Swift wouldn't let us attend Sibos. Some people don't know, it's a true story. We couldn't get space, a booth at Sibos. And so we decided, this is in Toronto, and we decided, Sibos, the land of big banks, we were the disruptors, literally. So we went down the street, we hosted our own event, and admittedly, it was a little bit of a warehouse. It wasn't nearly what we have today, but it was anchored by speakers like Ben Bernanke. And I think very quickly Swift regretted their decision because they created more of a monster by pushing us out. Well, 9 years later, the world looks profoundly different. Some of the biggest financial institutions in the world are here in this room with us, but it's not just them. We have the prime brokers, the application builders, the investment banks, the ETF issuers, as we just discussed, and everyone in between. Crypto and blockchain have moved from being taboo words to being part of the fabric of society. And let's be clear, you are all part of this movement. In fact, you all are this movement. So thank you. I am beyond grateful to have witnessed this fundamental shift in how the financial layer of the internet is changing and evolving. The work is nowhere near done, but if the conversations over the last 2 days have proven anything, it's that although we have come a very long way, we are all just getting started. I've said this before, but it is truly, and I say this somewhat humorously, an amazing time to be alive. We are witnessing the rewiring of financial infrastructure. We're witnessing enabling things that were simply not possible before. It truly is, I believe, the economic opportunity of a lifetime to enable and catalyze this rewiring. I'm extremely proud that Ripple has been leading from the front, both with lawsuits, but in a lot of other ways as well. So for over a decade, we've been leading with transparency, we've been leading with a compliance-first posture, and we've been leading with the goal of championing not just XRP, but the entire industry. I feel extremely lucky to have had the privilege of leading this company, and of course, an honor to be part of the larger XRP community. All right, so before I sign off and let everyone get snacks and drinks, one important public service announcement. I'm excited to share with you guys that our 10th swell is going to be a little bit different. As you guys know, the swell has tended to cater towards the institutional audience. We've had separate events like Apex that is catered to developers. But we are excited to expand swell to include not just financial institutions and payment providers or asset managers, but bring in the developers, bring in the investors, bring in the researchers, bring in the academics, and the broader XRP community who we've hosted at other events. This is going to be one single beacon event. Will be hosted by Ripple next year, back here in New York City, and we look forward to welcoming you all there next fall.
If you do want to understand the future of global finance, I think it's important that you have to understand how XRP underpins trillions and trillions in global value transfers. If this video was helpful, please hit like, subscribe, and share this with all your friends, anyone who's investing in XRP. If you want to learn more about the math, the economics, and the strategy behind XRP, because if this is the future of money and it's already being built, we need to prepare, we need to understand, and we need to protect ourselves as we move forward. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this video provided some value.